good.
Call meeting order of the Township Board of Trustees. Reminder the meeting's being recorded. Please sign in if you have not done so. Join me for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Karen, would you please read the minutes from the last meeting?
Board of Trustees of Harlan Township met regular session the 7th day of May, 2025 at regular meeting place of 8276 State Route 132. Trustees Edward Prudziński, Kevin Kern, and Marcus Shelton present. Meeting called to order by Mr. Kern at 7 p.m. Mr. Kern asked all present to stand and say Pledge of Allegiance. Minutes read from regular session April 16, 2025. Mr. Prudziński made a motion to approve minutes, second by Mr. Kern. Chief Pegram discussed Wells Cargo trailer surplus item. Chief Pegram recommends donating trailer to American Regulators based out of Goshen, Ohio. After discussion, Mr. Shelton made a motion to donate Wells Cargo trailer to American Regulators, second by Mr. Prudziński. Chief Pegram discussed 3 new volunteers for fire department. Chief Pegram is requesting Maxwell Kruger, Christine Kuglin, Colton Puffenberger, and Corbin Burns as 1-year probationary members for fire department. Mr. Kern made a motion to approve Maxwell Koger, Christine Kugren, Colton Puffenberger, and Corbin Burns as 1-year probationary members of the fire department, seconded by Mr. Shelton. Chief Pegram discussed receiving a grant from the State Farm National Volunteer Fire Council for 5 reimbursement laptop computers. After discussion, Mr. Prudziński made a motion to approve receipt of 5 laptop computers from State Farm National Volunteer Fire Council grant, seconded by Mr. Kern. Chief Pegram reported that he applied for Leary Foundation Fire Grant. If grant approved, will pay for half of the cost of additional set of battery-operated power rescue tools. Chief Pegram discussed fire levy failing. Chief Pegram requesting individual meeting with each trustee to discuss future plans. Mr. Mason reported 2 John Deere mowers have been sold and picked up. Mr. Mason reported continue working with Rube equipment on wheeled excavator demo. Mr. Mason reported road department working on replacing culverts and working on cleaning up from storms. Mr. Mason reported siren at Station 83 repaired. Old business, Mr. Prudziński discussed preliminary plans for Station 81. Mr. Shelton made a motion to submit plans with follow-up after receiving mechanical drawings, seconded by Mr. Kern. Mr. Prudziński asked for if health insurance is month-to-month or full-year renewal. Ms. Williams emailed broker and was told month-to-month. Mr. Prudziński stated he has a couple people that would like to quote insurance and asked for township to complete information. Ms. Williams asked Mr. Prudziński to email contact information. Mr. Kern met with Richard Livingston regarding Edwardsville Cemetery driveway. After discussion, trustees agreed to proceed with getting an estimate for original plan to extend the driveway. Mr. Shelton reported tractor show will be May 10th at Butlerville Building from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Plans to have food truck at the event. Bright Acres will be open for tours and have games during the event. Mr. Prudziński asked about the turnout for fish fry. Chief Pegram stated had a good turnout. Ms. Williams discussed information provided to trustees at last meeting for workers' compensation. Trustees requested Ms. Williams to contact Shakely about rates and annual charges. Community comments, Tom Hunley stated he has worked with Shagwig and Shakely. From his experience, he recommends township sticks with Shakely. Troy Couch asked if trustees have planned after fire levy failed. Feels trustees need to show support for fire department. Mr. Shelton stated that he took multiple calls regarding fire levy in support of fire department. Laura Mueller stated that in the past, letter written by Mr. Shelton posted on Facebook against the levy. Melissa Greater-X asked about the new fire chief truck that was ordered and which fund would be paid from. Melissa Greater-X asked a person that applied for the Warren County Township Association scholarship from Harlan Township was awarded scholarship. Mr. Prudziński stated that they did not receive the scholarship. Tanya Studer asked why replacing the fire chief vehicle with new truck was told planned to use current fire Fire Chief Tahoe to replace the 2008 EMS vehicle and the 2014 Tahoe as EMS staff cars. Mr. Mason stated already looking to future cuts for the fire department. Mr. Kern made a motion to go into executive session to discuss compensation for public employee in accordance to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. Roll call, Mr. Brzezinski, yes. Mr. Kern, yes. Mr. Shelton, yes. Mr. Kern made a motion to adjourn executive session, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. Roll call, Mr. Brzezinski, yes. Mr. Kern, yes. Mr. Shelton, yes. Mr. Kern made a motion to change Steve Mason's current position of Township Administrator, Assistant Chief to Township Administrator with salary to be paid out of general fund. Assistant Chief position will change to volunteer, seconded by Mr. Shelton. Ms. Williams gave written financial report to the trustees. Mr. Brzezinski made a motion to pay bills, seconded by Mr. Shelton. Correspondence reviewed. Mr. Shelton made a motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Brzezinski. Meeting adjourned at 8:28.
Do you have any corrections?
I have no.
No, sir. Have a motion, accept the minutes, Greg.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of the
Second. Steve, with your report.
Yes, sir. So it's lengthy, so I apologize in advance. For the month of May, total fire and EMS runs were 34. 9 of those were fire runs, 25 were EMS runs. We received mutual aid on the EMS calls 14 times for a total of 56% of the calls were handled by a mutual aid department. First item that I'm going to ask for board action on is some repairs needed for engine 81. The engine needs new rear brakes. We did the front brakes last year. We received 2 quotes and we're recommending to proceed with Atlantic Fire Equipment at a cost not to exceed $8,000. So the motion would be to approve repairs to engine 81 with Atlantic Fire Equipment in the amount not to exceed $8,000.
Motion to approve repairs to engine 81, Atlantic Fire, not to exceed $8,000.
Second.
Thank you. Continuing the conversation about surplus items and donations, we are continuing to evaluate what trucks and equipment owned and recommend disposal of old obsolete items. Tonight, we are requesting the board declare the following items surplus: 4 Swiftwater rescue suits and helmets, and scuba dive communication system with hose, rope, and masks. With the discontinuation of the Warren County Scuba Dive Team, we no longer have the need for these items. The Loveland Sims Fire Department operates and houses the equipment for Task Force 1. Task Force 1 is the Region 3 Southwest Ohio Swiftwater Rescue Team, as well as operates the Regional Dive, Rescue, and Recovery Team. Members of Task Force 1 come from several area fire and EMS agencies, as well as several sheriff departments. Any future water rescues in Harlan Township will automatically dispatch Loveland Sims Fire Department and Task Force 1. Therefore, it only makes sense for us to donate this surplus equipment to them, as in the future they will be responding if an emergency in Harlan Township occurs. So the motion that I'm requesting would be to declare surplus the remaining scuba and swiftwater rescue equipment listed above and donate said items to the Loveland Sims Fire Department.
I got a quick question. Do we even have anybody certified?
Not
for
for
these
dive.
two? Okay. No. I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Just an update, Squad 81 had its air conditioning repaired. Squad 82 had its oil change in service. We did have a small fire in the cab of Tanker 81, and it was out of service for 2 weeks, but we were able to make those repairs in-house, and the truck is back in service. Of note, Donald Books is here. Donald coordinates our cadet program. On Saturday, May 17th, our cadets went to the Clinton Warren Fire District Training Facility and had an all-day training. The cadet program is currently full, but we do have a few of our cadets that are graduating high school or maybe inactive, so we will be updating the roster soon and bringing on some additional new cadets before the start of the new school year. Next item is I'm requesting that we terminate some members of the department. I'm requesting the Board of Trustees terminate several volunteers who have attended zero activity, which would include meetings, trainings, or fire and EMS calls over the past 6 months, maybe longer. We have made several attempts to contact these individuals via text, email, and other media. We have encouraged them to attend meetings, training, and sign up for shifts and duty crews with zero response to any of our correspondence. So at this time, we're requesting the motion to terminate volunteers Lee Magus, Casey Shepard, Austin Taylor, Tracy Rapich, and Jacob Miles, effective today's date.
Make that motion.
Second. Talk a little bit more about the levy failure. Following the failure of the fire and EMS levy, I did meet with, now twice, our neighboring fire chiefs, who definitely made it clear that they cannot and will not provide free fire and EMS services to Harlan Township, as their own residents fund these services through their own local taxes. To highlight the disparity, Harlan Township residents currently pay an effective millage rate of 1.66 mils, significantly lower than the surrounding communities. So just to give you some examples, Goshen Township is paying an effective millage of 7.9. Salem Morrow is paying an effective millage of 6.36. Blanchester Fire and EMS combined, they're separate agencies, but I combined the numbers, 4.79 mils. Clinton Warren Joint Fire District, which is Clarksville, Washington Township, 4.14 mils. And Wayne Township, Claremont County, is currently at 3.97 mils. Additionally, I will point out that 3 of those chiefs have told us they're going for new additional levies. So they're already bringing in significantly more for fire and EMS protection and requesting additional. Due to our lower tax rate, the chiefs will be proposing a fee for services, meaning Harlan Township will be billed for any cover runs. These occur when our primary unit fails to respond, requiring a neighboring department to step in. Unlike mutual aid, these runs are not covered under the existing agreements. If this fee structure had already been in place, costs for January through May alone would have totaled $450,000, with an annual expense exceeding $1 million. This further demonstrates that the 3.5 mil levy was and remains the most cost-effective solution. Harlan Township is facing a fiscal crisis. At our current rate of calls, and once a billing program is implemented, we expect to deplete all fire and EMS funds by 2026, leading to a fiscal emergency. By fall of 2026, Harlan Township Fire and Rescue may be forced to close, as all available funds will be needed to pay for contracted services, leaving no money for insurance, utilities, or basic operations. Without funding, Harlan Township will have no fire or EMS coverage. Even with volunteers, these services remain costly, and there are no legal or affordable alternatives. The proposed fire and EMS levy remains the most cost-effective solution. Given these financial realities, we strongly recommend that the Board of Trustees plan to place the 3.5 mil fire and EMS levy back on the November ballot. To meet the August filing deadline, we must pass 2 resolutions in June or July to submit the necessary paperwork to the Board of Elections on time. I'm going to pause just to see if you have any questions about that topic.
Well, Miami has a renewal on this fall. You think it's going to be even tougher?
I do. So Little Miami is going to be on for the renewal of their emergency levy that was passed a few years back when they were in fiscal crisis. Now I was advised it's a renewal, so not an increase in taxes. There's also potential that there's going to be a statewide issue about property taxes, eliminating property taxes. The problem I see with that is I think all of us would agree, myself included, that property taxes are out of control. But as a township, and especially as a fire and EMS department, it's the only option we have to raise revenue and pay for services currently. So if property taxes was made illegal, you still have to replace it with something. So whether that's an income tax, a sales tax, and the way the ballot language that I've seen reads, they would have about 5-6 weeks to figure that out.
If that was to go away, like right now you have cities that they can do an income tax for fire. We can't do that as a township.
Correct.
Would it give us more options?
Only if the state then passed some emergency legislation. So if the ballot initiative, if it gets on the ballot, they're collecting signatures, and it goes on the ballot, and let's say it passes in November, it makes property taxes illegal statewide January 1st.
Right.
The problem is you're eliminating the funding for fire, police, schools, social services, veteran services, libraries, anybody that has a property tax or like road, some of the road funds, etc. So the state legislature would then have from election day in November till January 1 to figure out how to fund all those essential services. Or literally we would have, and everybody else would have no money January 1.
So they would have to actually do something?
They would. And my personal opinion only is I think that's why they're putting this initiative out there. I mean, the funding for schools has been deemed unconstitutional by the state Supreme Court.
Since the 1990s.
However, they're basically allowed to continue that process until it's replaced. Nothing has ever been passed to replace it. So I think this ballot initiative, if it makes it on the ballot, is basically, forcing the state legislature to do something if it passes. But I think it's very scary. If I understand why it's being done, and I think it even has a chance to do well on the ballot.
It has to get on.
It has to get on the ballot first, but it would be very scary in November to not know if we had any funding January 1, not only for fire and EMS, but for our roads, for our schools, for our police departments.
They would have to
etc.
continue funding just a different way for our current, for what's been passed current.
Correct.
I'm just wondering if that will give us whatever they passed. It's gonna make them redraw everything, and I just wondered if it might give us, somehow more options.
I have no idea.
To,
I am sure if it makes it on the ballot, and by the time we get to November, I'm sure the Ohio Township Association, the League of Municipalities, all the different entities in the state will be pushing out a lot of information.
But there are also some legislators in Ohio who have kind of jumped, I think now with the grassroots movement, there are a couple of them. There's a couple of different scenarios out there. There's one, I don't know if it's a rep or a senator that wants to raise the threshold for levies to 60% passage for them to go through. If we keep property taxes, you're going to have to get 60%, not just a majority. The one I read yesterday was, I think it's actually a local rep. He lives somewhere in Warren County, where they wanted to do property tax reform, where Columbus has more input into where it goes. So that's, right now the state has no say. They never see the money. His bill would essentially, Harlan Township would have to then prove to the state of Ohio that we need a levy. So they would then the state, so it does allow the state legislators to have their finger on where the money gets to go, where right now they don't have that. So I think there are multiple different things that could happen, whether it's to the ballot initiative, whether it's through someone in the legislature getting something through. All of them, by their own admission, is to make levies harder to pass. And at the same time, there's also another group of legislators who want to make EMS, which is not currently a service,
Essential service.
Essential services. So
We don't have to have that.
So at the same time that you want to make it harder to raise funds, you also want to make something else mandatory. I don't know how those two things go together.
Just fire we have to have. Is that what the code?
Yeah, we're currently in the ORC only considers fire for us, fire as an essential service. EMS is not considered an essential service in the state of Ohio currently, although that is being proposed to be changed.
Okay, ready to move on? All right, so continued discussion about fleet reduction and replacement of vehicles, because I know this came up a little bit and we've had some questions. Harlan Township currently owns more vehicles than necessary, even if we were to transition to a paid part-time department. To improve efficiency and reduce costs, the township is evaluating its fleet size, as maintaining 14 vehicles is excessive given that an average of only 3 to 5 volunteers respond to most calls. Some surplus equipment has already been identified, including the boat and the Jeep. Since the initial bid for the Jeep did not meet the minimum threshold, it has been relisted on govdeals.com. Additionally, the new pickup truck on order will help streamline operations and cut costs by consolidating equipment from 3 vehicles into 1. This new truck will replace the battalion car, which is a 2014, the EMS car, which is a 2009, and some of the equipment that was on the tech rescue trailer, which is a 2000, offering a more efficient solution. Looking ahead, the township will continue to explore ways to enhance efficiency. Both engines and 2 of the 3 tankers are either beyond or nearing the end of life recommended for service. Instead of maintaining separate tankers and engines at each station, Harlan Township could replace them with tanker pumper units, reducing 4 vehicles to 2. Neighboring departments have already adopted this model, while Harlan Township remains the only one still using separate pumpers and tankers, an approach that is both costly and inefficient, requiring more personnel and more drivers than are currently available. During the last structure fire on May 17th in Harlan Township, only 5 volunteers responded. As a result, Engine 81, Tanker 84, Tanker 82, and Squad 81 were unable to form a crew or respond, necessitating assistance from 7 other fire and EMS agencies. Since November, Harlan Township has experienced 4 structure fires with an average of 5.75 volunteer firefighters responding per incident. While one structure fire saw over a dozen volunteers, a very positive outcome, it was an exception. Excluding that incident, the actual average response to a structure fire in the township is 3.6 volunteers. Given these consistently low response numbers, maintaining a fleet of 14 vehicles is neither necessary nor financially sustainable. The township will continue to evaluate its fleet to ensure cost-effective and efficient operations. As we discuss vehicles, it is important to understand that we operate with 2 distinct budgets. We have the operating budget, which is our annual revenue. This consists of revenue from taxes, EMS billing, grants, donations, and fundraisers. It covers all the day-to-day department expenses, including personnel, supplies, utilities, equipment, training, and repairs. We then have surplus funds, which are also called unencumbered funds. As defined by the state auditor, these are funds saved over time and earmarked for future capital expenses. Historically, when Harlan Township purchased a new ambulance, fire engine, or tanker, these acquisitions were funded using surplus unencumbered funds. The new pickup truck is also being paid for with unencumbered funds. However, it will reduce costs in our operating budget by streamlining our vehicle fleet, which in turn lowers the equipment, maintenance, and insurance costs. Any questions on that item? Then the final comment I will just make is I call it rumor control and questions. So recently there have been many rumors circulating about the fire and EMS department and even about me personally. If you have any questions or hear something in the community that seems unclear or concerning, I encourage you to reach out. You can call or email me anytime. My email is pegram, P-E-G-R-A-M, @harlantwp.us, or my township cell phone is 513-562-0751. Just to clarify some of the rumors that have been presented to me of late. The first time I met all 3 of our township trustees was when they interviewed me on Saturday, November 30th, 2024. I have no prior relationship, nor have I ever met any of the 3 trustees before that date. My part-time salary is the same as the previous part-time chief. We are not closing Station 82 on State Route 123. But with only 3 to 5 volunteers responding to most calls, we are taking some units out of service for dispatch when we know we do not have a crew available. I'm not buying myself a new chief's car. As explained, we are replacing 3 vehicles with 1 pickup truck. I will continue to drive the 2016 car that was purchased by Chief Minton and driven also by Chief Minton. Any questions? I know it was a lot to digest, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very informative. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mason?
I'd like to point out 1 page, no back.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Being inefficient with my paper.
The first road and some of the stuff that comes from the last meeting, which we had to cancel. So we have completed the first round of road mowing. Probably gotten pretty far through the spraying at this point since that started last time. So spraying around guardrails and signs and whatnot. But we've had this conversation for a while. Back on the wheeled excavator again. There is currently not a unit close, that's new that Rudd Equipment has. They have one on order. It is expected to be delivered in October. With that elongated delivery time, the quote that we received, which I believe was like $216,000 for the excavator and the cutter head, those prices are, they can't lock into what that cost is going to be. We would have the option to sign an agreement that basically they would be a sold unit to us, pending price and inspection by us. Basically puts our name on that unit. We just talked about a number of things with unknown funding. I don't know, just kind of looking for some feedback there. Salesman has asked what, if we wanted to get that locked in, we would probably want to do that sooner rather than later. I don't know if we want to, but just any thoughts, conversation on that.
We can lock it in and we can test drive it.
We can test drive it. I just want to confirm that we could, also, since we don't know what the price is, we don't know what the tariffs are going to be at given time. They don't know when it's going to come in. I don't know. Obviously, if that machine ends up being a 50% tariff, then that kind of gets out of our price range, in my opinion. Also, you go from 200 to 300. But I would definitely want to confirm with them that based on price. I don't know if somebody even want to continue down the road.
So we can lock it in, but we're not locked in.
We can put our name on it, yes. So they could definitely do it pending inspection. And I want to also confirm that we could also have the out if this thing does come in significantly higher than their, because they will not put a price on it because they don't know it's
Right. It all changes.
So I would definitely want to confirm both those things, that we could back out based on price, or if something changes on our end.
Those are the equipment guys.
I just break it.
And you just break them. Right. That's Jeff's job. So this can get rid of it.
We're just putting a name on it and a hat, basically. They're just gonna get this, and if we don't buy it, somebody else buys it. I don't see any problem with putting our name on it, but like you said, I don't know that we can justify they
Right.
leave an open door on it.
Like I said, we definitely want to clarify pricing and
I like to see it run that
inspection.
too.
right. And then unfortunately, there isn't any of these that are close. They have larger machines that are more than what we would want. Those are available
Are we gonna keep, if we did buy this, are we gonna keep the backhoe?
for now. We would have the option. No, we would have the option to use the bush hogging tractor with a loader, do the salt, but it would take a lot of workload.
I just want us to be down to one machine and then go down and we're down for a couple of weeks.
I think initially we would keep the backhoe. We take a lot of hours off the backhoe. Same way with the mini excavator.
We just leave it for the
Where it's going to
cemetery.
be cemetery, so that machine's going to last for quite a while before we're using it.
You're
For
not
the cemetery
built
for
for
small
it.
jobs. Yeah, we're definitely using it to its max capacity now with the size we have to keep for the cemetery. So would you like me to look at paperwork and get the paperwork here for you to find the print? If you don't,
As long as we're
this
not,
way.
as long as we're not locked into buying
Sure.
it, because we don't know what the price is.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, I'd be fine with putting our name on it.
I'll have them proceed with that then. We'll see what they come up with there. J&A Construction, who's going to do the mastic seal on Wayne's Way, they're shooting for sometime in the next 2 weeks, maybe by the end of next week. With weather conditions, I don't know if they're going to get that backed up or not. Obviously, the rain is why they've been delayed so far, but that may occur in the next couple of weeks after their target. Road repairs being completed on Mauer Rossburg / Garrison Sperling between 28th and County Line there. And plans to eventually chip seal that short section. They were able to do some base repairs, get it leveled up and smoothed out. That was done yesterday. We have moved the dumpster at Whitaker Park up toward the maintenance buildings on 123. Somebody has our timing down for when that gets dumped, and it looks to be some sort of a construction company, and they're filling it the next day or the day after. So we don't have room to dump the dumpsters at the park because it's getting filled up a day or two after. So we're giving free trash service to somebody who's doing some remodeling. So we're going to move. It's already been moved up front. And if we continue to have issues, we will look at putting a camera up there.
We already had a key, did we pull that?
It's been on for-
There's been a couple, I know we have. I think we should put one back up regardless.
They got stolen.
Are you serious?
I think one got broken, one broke when the tree fell,
I mean,
and that one got stolen.
There is a block camera on 123 in front of the firehouse.
We should be able to tell which one is which.
Yeah, if you look at the footage, you'll be able to, you'll see the vehicle going in or going out,
really?
potentially.
Who has access to that? Sheriff?
It's facing the lane.
It does face the lane.
Well, it faces my house, so it would be facing the lane.
Was it you?
No. But it is full of dead, there's stuff in it today.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. The old business ends.
Still working on the mechanical drawings for our firehouse remodel.
Don't forget the car show. I'll let Bridget handle that though. I'm sure she'll have that in public comments. I don't have anything else.
I don't have any new,
No, sir.
Mr. Shelton, I don't have any new community comments.
I have no.
Oh, sorry, Jenny. She made it to my meeting.
Well, you skipped me. We have to set the budget hearing. We usually do it at our first meeting of July, which would be July 2nd. The last couple of years, it has ran really close because we used to do it at 6:30, be done, and have our meeting. But it's been running a little bit too long these last couple of years. So we either need to start it earlier or have it on another day.
Say
6
6:15.
o'clock, 6:15.
We can do 6:15 on the 2nd, can be the budget hearing.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any comments?
Sorry, Bridget, I cut you off.
Oh, listen, all good. Yes, the old school cruising is coming up June 21st here from 10 to 3. Flyers should be up and out and circulating and all that good fun stuff. I believe Papa Bear's is our food truck. We'll have the lemonade stand. Rooted Acres, the petting zoo will be here. All that good fun stuff. I've been asked about a farmer's market here potentially once a week. We're still kind of ironing out what day would be best and what time. I think my thing is how many vendors are they going to have and how much room are they going to take in the parking lot, because we still have obviously all the vehicles between us and LM Gig that take up quite a bit of space.
If they did it, where would they just do it out over here?
Put it out on the septic field.
Right.
They can't park right there.
We don't have to park there.
Well, yeah, but if people want
Set
to
your
load,
rates set
that's
down
gonna bother you
Well,
guys with your
that's-
loading and unloading.
Well, and that's the thing too, is we just gotta, again, depending on how many cars, if they have, 7 or 8, they can just
Right.
put that front line right there. But if they're gonna have 10, 15, we'll have to finagle space somewhere because there's a lot of vehicles here throughout the day with both businesses.
We have not heard from the one lady.
She is not doing that.
She's not.
Did Rich send us a picture?
I don't know who that was.
Oh, I thought he
There was
said
there
he
wasn't
found-
any names on it. He said that, yeah, but there wasn't any names on that. Do you want us to discuss it, or you guys are still trying to figure out how to iron it
I
out?
think it.
Well, I think I just need more information on how many vendors are we looking at, who's in charge, what are they wanting? Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna be in charge of something I'm not running.
Vendors, yeah. If you had wanted to, they used to do it tomorrow.
6 to 10, maybe.
Probably depends on who runs it.
I don't think anybody's running it. It's just, we're just talking about being able to open on a certain day, certain time. People can set up and sell their stuff.
Seemed like it was
Right.
more, there was more vendors than customers, most
Right.
Thursdays.
Well, because then I thought about that too. It'd probably be nice if we could set it up during one of our busy pickup times. So maybe that would get them some customers with our parents picking up. So it would
Good
just
idea.
be,
I think it's really gonna be, we're gonna decide and you have to put it all pieces together.
yes. It's just
So
how it works
Pieces
then.
all work.
But we don't wanna, hinder you guys either with traffic and stuff, so.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If they stay out here, they're not gonna bother us back there. As long as our parents have drive-through to get. As long as our parents have access to the drive-through to get to the back, and then they just pull out on the other side of the building. So if they stay out front, they're not gonna hinder pickups with our parents.
Figure out the date. When do we need to know all this?
Whenever you all ready to get started again. Is this gonna be like a Harlan Township farmers market?
I guess.
Yeah.
I'll see why not? We'll just call it the Harlan Township Farmers Market. Whoever shows up to bid, they bid.
So you're not taking like, we're just gonna make a posting or something that it'll be here, all
How does
vendors welcome, like,
Lancaster- Oh, well, we might do that. How does Lancaster do theirs?
I do not know, but I could probably.
Right in the middle of town.
Yeah, I know where
Yeah.
it's at, but I mean, how do you just show up? or-
That's what I'm saying, is there like paperwork on file for the vendors that are gonna be there? What do you legally have to have?
It had
We
to
have
have
the
slots.
paperwork for the vendor's license. Now, we did not collect it, so we had one just with her, she was running it, it was her.
That's what I'm saying, if you don't have anybody else running it, do we
So we'll
know what
need
all
either-
we need to have as a
Right.
government
Either we had to
entity?
have, yeah, we had to have either everybody sign the vendor release form, or one person sign it, and then, it depends how it's, how you
I
structure
think there's
it.
lots of questions.
That was the question before, was it if it's, and that's what was decided last year, is that it was actually a private farmer's market, that was she
Correct.
She
It was
rented the
covered under
space,
her,
and then
yes.
she got, and that way that we had to
Was
deal with
covered.
one person.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, if this is gonna be a Harlan Township, we need to make sure we have all the proper paperwork and who's
If we need, whatever.
here and who's not, and
Can we figure out what Lancaster does for theirs? What, I don't even know what day they do theirs.
when,
Because we wouldn't want to do ours at the
Days.
same time.
I
that
think
other-
theirs is Wednesday. I can double check, but
Okay.
I'm almost positive it was Wednesdays.
But legally, we're better if we have one person. that's
Depends how you wanna
actually-
do it, I mean, so the, if it becomes the Bridget Ballard / Harlan
That's
Township
what I'm thinking.
Farmers Market, then she makes the rules.
Oh, we don't like that.
She makes, so she can, 'cause that was the issue at last time, was that it was, there were certain vendors were excluded. If it's the Harlan Township trustees running the farmers market, then we have to leave it open to everybody. Based on our paperwork.
All capital. 5 people.
But then
Like
it-
the same thing.
But but if we do it, then we have to have individual release forms and liability forms from each individual.
Which we
So
could
who's
have.
policing it when they start whittling in here sweet corn?
Why y'all looking at me?
They are.
You brought it up, honestly. Still walked in that one.
I think we just need to get some questions answered before we set a date
Okay.
of what all we need. But like I said, I don't think there's a certain day or time, as long as they stay out front where they're not blocking the drive-through to the back.
Okay.
And then the tractor show, personally had a lot of concerns about it this year. I do think our first year was the best year. I think each year's gotten worse after that. I'm not sure where the breakdown happened, but there were like 5 tractors here and I think 4 of them were JRs. So I was just very concerned with the lack of tractors
There was 12.
this, 12 compared to the 20 we had the first year. So I think if we do that again, we've got to figure out how to get more tractors involved. So I don't know, like with it being the farm club, does anybody know they can bring their tractors, or do they think they have to be a part of the farm club? Like,
Right.
I just think we need to figure out how we can get more in.
There was also an event the same day
Claremont County.
in Claremont County.
Well, the rumor was the farm club had split in half, and half of those people went to Claremont County and came up with an event that happened to be on the same day. So there was a lot of drama in the farm club, I've heard. So I just think we need to, if we're gonna continue that, because again, I got concerned with vendors. If we start having these mediocre events,
Right.
these vendors are gonna burn out and we're not gonna have anybody, even especially for Bright Acres events that are a little bit bigger events, they're not gonna wanna come out this way. So that's my only concern if we can't figure out how to get more here.
Well, I know there was one guy, well, you guys made the run on his grandson, the night before. And got 3 tractors. They didn't, they were in the hospital. So.
I get things happen, absolutely, but I just think for us trying to get vendors out here and make these things happen and then, because again, no offense, I don't know any tractor people, you all, that's all I got. So I can't really promote to bring your tractor type thing. But if we're the one doing the legwork, it's our name that's kind of out there, even if it is a farm club or a township event or this, that, the other, we're the one making the connections and I don't want to burn bridges and people out not coming to an event that's not going to be successful. At the end of the day.
I think a lot of the tractor events are very, very timely.
Well, that's the next thing. I don't know when any of these other events are. I don't know how we go about picking dates. I don't know the best route.
There's so many
To figure
factors.
it out.
It's weather, it's
Right.
what's going on around you. It's maybe the people that are going to be going to that would be in the field. I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of
Yeah.
little factors that are all involved in that. So timing is everything.
Would be better, maybe, I don't know, that's kind of like we left it to the farm club to decide as far as, you know, what dates, but maybe the middle of summer would be better. You know, where farmers aren't out in the fields or, you know, planting or not in the fall or, you know, harvesting.
And then have it all in air conditioning inside too. That would be even better.
Just knock a hole in the gymnasium and just park them in there.
I don't know, just some things to think about before next year of what we can do differently to possibly get a better turnout.
Personally,
I agree.
push it back further into the summer.
Yeah, I mean, you all tell me when and we'll make it happen, but that's the thing. I don't know the best times or the people or anything like that.
Then you start getting into Clinton or Claremont County Fairs in
Right.
July.
In July,
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
but we figure late June.
Yeah.
Could be good. Unless somebody's still planting.
And we had that same problem with the car show in the past, or has that been pretty good?
Our first year for all of our events here were phenomenal.
Yeah.
The second year, they were decent, but
There's a car show this weekend at Midwestern Children's Home, right?
Yep.
There's a car show next weekend at Goshen High School, and then I think ours is the weekend after.
I noticed the one at Midwestern, they're going, trophies. That's, I didn't think about how less.
so that's where I kind of struggle too with all the events that are happening between the 3 biggest parts. Is I feel like we have so many that are so close but yet so different. But then instead of us coming together to work together to make one big huge event,
Mhm.
we have 3 kind of battling against each other, when if we all came together, we could probably have huge events. But I feel it's very divided, and trying to get everybody to work together is kind of hindering a lot of success in the township, personally. Because again, we have the cruise in, but then 9 Lincoln's doing the car show. So if we're looking at doing trophies, it's not going to be any different than what 9 Lincoln is doing. So I just feel like there's a lot of things that are close, but just enough to be different, but not everybody working together to have bigger events in the long run.
Right.
So we do tractors and cars, same show.
Well, that honestly was my next, do we think of something that it's not just tractors? I mean, I don't want to call it like a touch a truck or anything like that, but come up with something that you can bring any type of equipment, an excavator, you can bring a tractor, you can bring a dump truck, you can bring old fashioned car, like a hodgepodge of things was another thought that I had, but then again, we have those all over. So I don't know what to do differently to make it exciting for people to.
Well, then you
Want
wouldn't
to
be
show up.
limiting it to antique tractors.
So just some thoughts for the events and how they are going and things that we probably need to think about to try to make them better or figure out a solution to get everybody on the same page.
you could come up with some type of an event, maybe that's original, or it's kind of something that would be more appealing to our demographics.
Right.
I mean, the tractor show in a residential area, man, that'd be huge.
Right.
We all got tractors.
Sure, correct. I know our kids here love the tractor show. They all look forward to it every year, but I just don't think we had enough tractors, and
Right.
it just wasn't. I don't know what it was, but this year was probably the worst out of the 2 or 3 that we have done. So it was sad.
I was surprised.
It made me sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know those that were here were a little upset too.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want bad blood. I don't want bad mouthing to go. Like, I just don't want it to be like, yep, they just did this and it wasn't even worth, like,
Right.
I just want it to be successful for everybody involved, including our vendors. I know we tipped quite a bit just because we were nervous of them not making me.
Well, you're a business lady. You're in the marketing?
Actually, that's where Miss April comes into play.
Oh, okay.
She's better with most of the marketing stuff. But that's my next thing. I feel marketing, where do we go with that? Like, we can only post on Facebook so many times, and then obviously we have to worry about the legality of who's posting it and where it's being posted from. And so I don't know if a Harlan Township Facebook page is a thing in the future to where all the events get posted on that, but then I know you have to worry about including all events and not just, so I don't know where all of that comes into play, because I feel like that's another big thing. It's personal people making these posts, and it's not really seeming like it's a township thing, even though all the flyers say township. So I think there's a lot of things that we can figure out to make them better.
Brainstorm.
I have to.
A group of us together need to sit down and just toss ideas.
But then again, who's allowed to be a part of that group? So
Yeah.
there's so many things that
That's gonna be part of that group.
that's all right.
Anybody else have any community comments?
I have a question about the levy. Will residents be charged for EMS runs? Is
Well,
that,
you are now
Right,
already.
right.
So we do EMS, we and all fire departments do EMS billing. So the way EMS billing currently works is you are billed, a bill goes from our third-party billing company directly to your insurance, whether it's private insurance, Medicare, Medicaid. All of those have a pre-negotiated price that they pay, and then there's basically the balance is written off, assuming that you are a Harlan Township resident, you pay taxes. So you don't receive the balance of the bill. So if the bill's $2,000 and they pay $500, we write off the $1,500.
okay,
That's the current system. Let me finish.
okay,
When mutual aid comes and picks you up, you're responsible for that because you're not a taxpayer in that community. So yes, residents will get a bill for if they're transported by a mutual aid neighboring fire department. But also with this new program, the township will get a bill to cover the actual cost of the ambulance, supplies, equipment, manpower, and the fact that their ambulance is now gone from their community, not covering their town, covering our town. So the fire chiefs are very concerned about the domino effect. And I'll give you a quick example. So a couple of weeks ago, we were unable to cover an ambulance call in Harlan Township. Blanchester responded to go to Harlan Township. Then they had a call in Blanchester. Blanchester didn't have a second squad crew, so they called Clinton Warren. Clinton Warren went to Blanchester, delayed response, right? Took longer for them to get there. So the person in Blanchester who lost their service that they're paying taxes for didn't get it because their medics were in Harlan. Then there was a call in Clinton Warren. Clinton Warren couldn't cover the second call, so Salem Morrow goes to Clinton Warren. Then there's a call in Morrow. Hamilton Township goes to Morrow. Then there's a call in Hamilton Township, and South Lebanon goes to Hamilton Township. So when we don't cover a call here, it's having this domino effect that's not just affecting our residents, but the residents of Harlan Township, Blanchester, Clinton Warren, Salem Morrow, Hamilton Township, and in that case, South Lebanon. And the other problem we're having is this is happening more often. So we had 3 mutual aid ambulance calls yesterday. So 3 times yesterday, a mutual aid ambulance came into town. That would cost Harlan Township, once this is implemented, $15,000 for one day. It will bankrupt us.
Right.
We can't afford this.
Right.
Like, the cheaper option is the levy. The levy would have generated $850,000. Contracting for services could potentially be $1.1 to $2 million.
Okay, so with that domino effect, the residents being, I just want clarification.
Yep.
I have a 911 call.
Yep.
No one responds from Harlan Township.
Yep.
Blanchester comes in, because I'm on that side of the territory. I will receive a bill from Blanchester.
Correct.
As well as the township.
Correct.
Okay, and that bill obviously has to be paid.
It-
Yes. I mean, yeah,
I mean,
okay,
that's up to there because it's their bill to you. We don't send people to collections, or at
Okay.
least we don't send residents to collections.
Okay.
But yes, that
Okay.
bill would come to you.
okay, I
It would
just,
go to your insurance company first.
right,
They'll accept whatever insurance pays. They
okay,
don't ever pay the full bill.
right,
And then whatever the balance of the bill is would come to you.
Okay.
So another good example, and I think we posted this during the levy campaign, is we had a resident in the township that fell off his roof putting up Christmas lights. We were unavailable, so Goshen Township responded, picked him up, took him to the hospital. He received a $1,300 bill from Goshen Township for their transporting him to the hospital. So the big issue, and I appreciate the question, is I understand people are allowed to vote no on taxes, and I understand the frustration with property taxes, but we're really out of options here. The levy in November is going to be, you either have fire and EMS, or we potentially could be the first community in the United States of America that is doing a campaign telling people not to dial 911 because we don't have any service. As you heard Steve talk about, we're required to provide fire protection, but it doesn't say what that is.
Right.
It could be one guy in a pickup truck with a fire extinguisher. That's fire protection. We are not obligated under law, nor is anyone else, which is scary, to provide EMS service. And the majority of our calls are EMS service. Where we save lives is EMS.
Right.
But technically, if we run out of money, we could shut EMS down and no one's coming. So you have a heart attack, no one's coming. You're in a car accident. Steve and I talked about this. You're in a car accident on 28. The fire department comes, cuts you out of the car, and we place you on the ground. Now what?
Right.
We're really at that point. And I've confirmed this with the state fire marshal's office, the division of EMS in Columbus. I have meetings next week with the county officials, state reps, the sheriff. Like, everybody's like, yeah, you're correct. There is no obligation to provide EMS in the state of Ohio. We're in a very scary situation.
I just wanted that discussed so that people watching this will.
So I sent an email today to the levy committee that we had for the previous 2 levies, inviting them to come in next week and start these discussions. We had the International Association of Fire Chiefs in last week, did a facilitated conversation here in this room with our membership, looking at options, why the levy failed, what we could do differently. And at the end of the day, these 2 subject matter experts that flew in to spend the day with us, one of which has been a volunteer fire chief for over 40 years, basically said, you need more money. That was the brain, after all the conversations of the 8-hour day, that was the solution. You need more money.
Right.
And that is the harsh reality. I know people don't like it, but the harsh reality is without more money, we will fail.
Right.
Things will burn down. People will not get to the hospital. Bad things will happen. We're at that point. It's going to collapse. So thank you for the question.
So now I'm confused. Is she getting billed or is Harlan Township billed?
Both.
So they're gonna collect from both people?
Yes. Because they have no obligation to provide service to you. That you're not a taxpayer in Salem Township.
Oh, I get that.
So they are
But-
not willing to provide free service to us. And the bill does not come, EMS billing never covers the expense of EMS. I mean, I'll give you an example just because I'm more familiar with the numbers, but Goshen Township has a $4 million budget. They generate $600,000 in EMS billing. So, the other $3,400,000 comes from taxes.
So
It never covers
basically,
the cost.
The insurance is gonna reduce her bill Harlan Township is gonna make up the difference.
No,
No, I have to make up the difference.
she's
Well,
gonna
no.
get a bill and she has to
They're
pay
gonna-
her
They're
bill.
gonna send a bill to
And
insurance.
separately, they're going to bill.
They're gonna bill her insurance, but her insurance is gonna reduce it.
No.
Well, for what's allowed,
No,
which does not cover the full cost.
it's two
of
different
the
bills. So we all use third-party billing company. In fact, we all use the same company, which makes it easy. When there's an EMS call, no matter where the call is, no matter who handles the call, you get a bill for that. The bill typically goes to the insurance company. So you, as a resident, you typically don't see it. They get paid, whatever they get paid. If we check the box that you're a township resident, it stops there. They write off the balance. They send us what we get, monthly or whatever, and it's done. This new program, because of the use of mutual aid, it's not mutual. I don't have another term for it, cover runs when we're unable to respond. That system will still occur. So whether it's Blanchester, Goshen, Salem, Morrow, Wayne, Hamilton, their billing company will send the resident insurance a bill. They will accept whatever the insurance company pays. But then the box that says resident will not be checked because you're not a resident of that agency. So they will send you personally an invoice for the cost, the balance of that bill. Completely separate. Monthly, all those fire departments are going to calculate how many times they responded into Harlan Township, and they're going to send the Board of Trustees an invoice for $5,000 for every run that we didn't cover. And that is to make up for their ambulance, their equipment, their staffing, backfill. For example, when Goshen sends an ambulance here, if one of their other ambulances goes out, they do a recall and call in guys on overtime to cover their station because they're too busy not to cover their town. They're doing 10, 15 runs a day where we're doing that many in a week. So this is going to get really, really painful and really, really expensive really fast. Yesterday would have been a $15,000 day for Harlan Township. We can't afford that. That would use every penny that, we just got the spreadsheet of all the money in the township. It will spend all that money within a year. There won't be anything left. We will be in fiscal emergency. The state will take over the township. Your roads won't be paved. Your snow won't get removed. The cemeteries will close. We're at that point that we don't have any other options. I wish we did. Does that make sense?
I've got a question that's related to this, I guess. So we know that taxes are out of control. Steve related to that in his conversation. It sounds like we're staying on top, or we being the township is trying to stay on top of what's going on, but are we being proactive in working with any of these legislators? Because I've talked to 6 or 8 myself in different areas in Ohio where I've got properties. Are we being proactive to try to address this? Because all of them say it's a problem, but none of them have a solution. So for me as a taxpayer, they're saying, "Oh yeah, that's our number one problem." Well, what's your solution? Nobody has one. And I guess that's my concern, because as a Harlan Township resident, if we lose, the EMS portion, and even if that's the only part that goes, our values are going to go down for this area. So I just don't know. I just hope we're all being proactive with that. And, I think if we can get the right message out to the township, I think, everybody, it's taxes, and this is the only thing you can vote on is the problem. And then when I talk to different people, that's the issue, because what can you vote on? Schools, fire? That's pretty much it. The legislators have taken all that voting rights away from us over the years. And I think that's a big concern. So I don't know if you guys are working on that in any fashion or form, right? I would assume in some fashion, but I don't know how proactive we're being in that area. And I think that would be important to be extremely proactive with what's going on, because obviously if I don't know who in their right mind's not going to sign, if they're going around with this bill that you're going to eliminate my property taxes as a resident, I'm signing it. And I don't care, because I'm tired of, my property taxes. I don't, because most people don't understand. So I think it's got some merit rolling on that.
Sure.
On that, that could
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's very likely. I mean, I don't that it gets just from what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, radio interviews, podcasts that I listen to, that I hear. I think it's got at least 50-50 shot of getting the signatures in. I think if it gets on the ballot, I think it's got an 80-20 shot of passing.
Mhm.
I think it's just, can you get the signatures going?
Right.
And I think it absolutely passes.
Right.
If they get that far. But you're also right. Like and I've listened to a couple interviews, and politicians don't want to use the word taxes, right? So when somebody brings up, well, how are you gonna, if it costs X amount of money to run a fire department, and you take away the funding here, this doesn't change. The X amount doesn't go anywhere. And I've listened to multiple interviews. I've not yet heard a politician say where this comes from, because then they have to go on the record saying that, well, I'm going to tax you some other way. And none of them are saying that. They typically point out efficiency, right? They'll all say, well, there's places where we can look at not only, they won't say taxes, revenue, but they'll look at efficiency. And that's what and it sounds great, right? That we're going to look at efficiency. Well, and they talk about schools a lot, because that's where 80% of our taxes go, is to public schools. But I've not heard anybody mention safety services, because again, as a politician, you don't want to talk about lack of safety services and more taxes. Mm-hmm. So they avoid those two.
Right.
When Matt Nolan was here, I think you were here for that meeting. You talked to him. You know Matt pretty well. Like, his opinion is that there isn't, the will in Columbus, because somebody has to go on the record and say, we're going to tax this. And that's very, very hard to do. The easiest position to take politically or in any kind of a conversation is no tax, right? I don't want to pay property taxes. I don't want to pay income tax. I don't want to pay federal, state, nothing.
Right.
Problem is, how do you fund it?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And from what I've been told, it's back to what I think you indicated. We're trying to force them to do something.
Right.
And because nobody's doing anything about it.
Well, on your question, I haven't worked on this issue with some of our representatives, but in the past, I've worked for several years on different issues, and all you get is lip service.
Right.
That's it. Now, with the Chiefs Association, who the president, did they work with our legislature? Or?
So the Ohio Fire Chiefs has a legislative committee that's very active and gives testimony on behalf of all the fire chiefs in the county and the state on a regular basis. And just uniquely, Steve Agenbrode, who's the president of the Warren County Fire Chiefs Association, he's the fire chief in Clear Creek Township, used to be the chairman of the legislative committee. So a lot of times the person going up there and testifying was from Warren County. So there's a really good relationship there. To answer the question, I've started the process of talking to the county officials as well as our state rep. So everybody, I've started sending emails and scheduling meetings with the auditor, the sheriff, the county administrator. I asked the question, should I meet with each commissioner individually, or should I come and present to a commissioners meeting? Because one of the conversations Steve and I had said is, if this goes bad, if the levy fails in November, we're being invoiced for services and we run out of money. At some point, we're going to recommend to the Board of Trustees to declare a disaster, which you can do. And a disaster declaration goes to the county. So while the county doesn't provide fire and EMS, they do govern disasters. Right. And I think we would meet the qualifications of a disaster. So at that point, it becomes a county issue, whether they like it or not. How that all works, legality of it, I don't know. We're starting that research right now. But I've kind of let them know, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we're headed. And so those meetings are starting next week. I have a meeting with the sheriff next week because I'm concerned for his sheriff's deputies. If a deputy is responding out here, forget fire and EMS runs. If a deputy is coming out here to handle a call and he gets into a fist fight with somebody and he gets hurt or taser or shot or, gets hit by a car, anything bad happens to that deputy, help is not coming. Right. Or may not be coming. Our volunteers do a fantastic job. I thoroughly enjoy the people that are on the department. They're dedicated, but everybody, I think, would say, I'm busy, right? I'm busy. Steve's busy. You're busy. We're all busy with life, with family, with jobs, with kids, with sports. So a volunteer fire department is a really hard thing. And if you Google this nationally, they are failing every day all over the country. So it's not a lack of trying or a lack of dedication or a lack of good people. It's just two things, really. We don't have enough volunteers. So I would, tell anybody listening at home, we need more volunteers. But when I say we need more, it's not 3 or 4. We need like 30 to cover the ambulance calls.
Right.
And that's just not really reality, to be honest with you. And money to cover the expenses of operation of the department and pay people to staff the ambulance. We're at that point. Every other community around us has already been through this. Every department around us was volunteer and then passed a levy and hired part-time people, and then passed a levy and hired a few more people, and then passed a levy and eventually hired some full-time people. I don't think Harlan Township is going to be needing more than 2 or 3 people for a very long time. We're a rural community, but we're at the point already where, like yesterday, the tones went off 3 times and nobody responded.
Could you touch on the revaluation issue between schools and townships?
Sure. So fire and EMS levies, police levies, things like that are outside millage. You have inside millage and outside millage. Inside millage, the township gets money, the county gets money, the schools get money. There's a set amount set by the state legislature, how much money you get. So when a piece of property is reevaluated and the value of that property goes up and your property taxes go up, that is all inside millage. So yes, the schools got more money, the township got a little bit more money, I think, in the road fund and the general fund. The county got more money, but fire and EMS levies, anything that you vote on does not get money when there's a reevaluation. So levies are adjusted. So when I spoke earlier that Harlan Township's paying an effective rate of 1.66. So voters of Harlan Township have passed 3 previous levies for a total of 5 or 5.5 mils. But that's 20, 30 years ago. That 5.5 mils is now collecting at 1.66 today. So as your property values go up, the millage is adjusted, but the revenue the township receives is relatively flat. The only additional revenue we receive is when there's new construction and that a new property starts paying a levy. But unfortunately, and there was some confusion, we talked about this during the last campaign, we'll talk about it again. A lot of people are like, I'm paying more in taxes, so there shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
The problem is anything that you vote on is outside millage, and anything you vote on does not get more money unless you put on another levy. The only way for fire and EMS, or if we had a police levy or something like that, to get more money is to put on a new or additional levy. Otherwise, your revenue is relatively flat. So as we look at Harlan Township and we look at our home budgets, all of our home budgets have gone up over the last 20, 30 years. What you pay for fuel, insurance, gas, electric, food, right, has gone up. And the same in fire and EMS, but our revenue remains relatively flat.
And to piggyback real quick on that, the Ohio House, has passed a bill to the Senate, it's now in the Senate, to do away with replacement levies. So historically, we don't have anything we can do to all ours are not continuous, but you could do a replacement levy, which basically brought your millage up to your full millage. So if you had passed, let's say, a 5 mil single levy, and you're 20 years down the road, you would have passed that each time. But now let's say you're going to do a replacement. You say, okay, we're going to same millage, right? We're not changing your millage, but we're going to do replacement. And that millage is then on your current value. The state house has said that they feel like that's kind of fraudulent because you can, as a township or we can advertise it's the same millage, but it goes up. So they're likely going to make those no longer a legal way to, because those pass at pretty all right. So renewals in Ohio historically pass about 98, 97% of those, and replacements are like 1 or 2% behind because majority of people don't know the difference. They see that it's no new millage, right? You can advertise it no new millage. So those are going away. So there's going to be more areas within the state that have trouble passing And that is the legislature's goal. Like I said before, it's to make it harder to add taxes. But if you're trying to provide services, that makes it challenging.
Good questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern that I know you guys are gonna have to address, but, and hopefully, I guess I'm real concerned as a resident, you know, I'm hopeful that, we can get the communication out to the community so they get a better understanding. I think that's part of the challenge too.
The one, I'm gonna try to do this, it's gonna be very ballpark, it's a problem, but I'm gonna try to look at property values and then get an estimate, so average property value, which we can do, all right, and then try to find some consistent data of average income in Harlan Township. And see, and try to make some scenarios up, you know, if you have, you know, if it ends up being equal to equal, right? So if you take the, you know, the $500,000 we receive now, if that goes away for property taxes, and just to get back to the $500,000 we bring in now, what does that average person look like? And of course, there's millions of variations of that, but just to try to get some numbers of these different people, you know, you own this property, but you make, you know,
Right.
As far as income.
Yeah, because you're, you know, the
Income tax.
and I don't make this sound like I'm pro or against property tax, but property taxes are probably the hardest taxes to, I'm gonna use the word cheat, flex on, right? Like it's hard to, if I'm a business owner and I'm looking at paying income tax, there's lots of different methods I can use to move, you know, I can create 2 or 3 LLCs and move this around, and all of a sudden, you know, the guy who owns an $8 million house in Harlan Township, that goes away. But now, you know, he's going to not pay any taxes if he's doing it right. I'm going to say right, as far as, you know, filing your tax and moving that money around. So that's the question. Are you, I know the goal is to try to, and I agree, and I don't have the answers, just like the politicians, right? Like, I agree that if you're retired, you shouldn't have to pay for your house forever. But if you say income tax, is there enough income in Harlan Township, and what is that percentage, right? If you have to come in and say, okay, now township's going to run an income tax, and we say it's going to take 15% income tax to equal this, well, that's not going to go well either. I don't think you do it like that. Well, it depends. I don't know what, you know, and there's no way for us to know this.
It's out there, that information.
But to get down to the individuals and how much they make every year.
If you get a ballpark, information is out there.
Anybody else have any community comments? Do you have any correspondence? Have a motion to pay the bills?
Motion to pay the bills?
Second.